Hello folks, in today's video we'll go through Tableau upgrade testing where we ensure that two different reports or the same report in different environments are in sync. To do this, the first thing we need to do is to define our connection to both of the Tableau systems. We do that in sources, and that's a prerequisite before we start this particular video, which is to have your connection defined in the BI validator. The connection itself can be built on direct trust, can be built on user credentials, or even a personal access token. Once you've defined your credentials, let's look at how we create this particular test case. Once you've created your test case, click on adding a component and add the Tableau upgrade node. It's going to ask you what the different Tableau servers that you want to connect with are. In my example, I'm going to illustrate that we can do this for the exact same use case itself, but as you can see, you can define different connections for the same as well. Then select the options that you would like to define. I want to ensure that we get filter differences and parameter differences as well. And if I would like to, I can forcefully apply the same filters and parameters on both the reports before running the comparison. The comparison in itself will be text-based and visual-based. You can add the option to make sure color differences are also pointed out. And the highlights is going to be in red color. This can be changed as well if you required. I'll keep it the same. And the opacity around 0.4 should be fine. The runtime variation is an interesting feature that the application gives you. It's basically going to define what the loading time differences are between the reports. Since the application is going to connect to your Tableau server, load up the reports and potentially apply filters and parameters as well, the application is going to keep track of the time it takes for these reports to load in and call out any differences. So we'll keep that as 0 for now to kind of illustrate this further. Once you've selected what you would like to do, just click on Add View and select the corresponding reports you would like to compare one against the other. The application assumes that you want to connect two of the same reports in different sections. So here, if I go into Superstore_prod and select the dashboard, the embedded report is loaded in. And this exact same path is used in report B as well, under the guise that, well, the connection would be different, but the positioning would be same. Of course, you have complete control over this and can select exactly which report you would like to define here. So I've selected dev and prod, but that's not the end of it. Let's go back to report A once. You'll see that the application has filters and slicers present right there. And what do these represent? Well, if I actually select a few filters, you'll see that the data and the visuals within the reports reflect that change inherently. And there's an entire rabbit hole of the application where the application can actually dynamically define the values set as well. The main gist here is that the reports can be valid at the default or unfiltered versions, but that's not true validation of the reports. Reports inherently are the summarization of multiple sources. So if there is an issue in one particular source, it might be ironed out when looking at an unfiltered report. But when an end user looks at the report, they're going to apply specific filters. And specific filters usually are going to kind of come or originate from one specific data source itself. And so if there's an issue there, the application might not catch it because of rounding errors, but the end user might. And so to avoid this, we provide parameterization of filters, where you define your test case once and reuse it multiple times for different permutation and combination of filters and parameters to make sure that every filter or defined set of reports is valid. To do this, we also have a good amount of BI DevOps section itself, but that's for a different video and a different section. For more information, you can contact us at Datagaps or look at subsequent videos on parameterization and permutation and combination of filters on the channel. But for now, we'll kind of skip that and we'll make sure that we have unfiltered versions of our report right there for the sake of consonantality and commonality. Now, if you are aware that there's going to be a difference between your dev and prod, maybe instead of orders and returns, you have orders and returns dev and orders and returns prod. There is exclusion zones as well, so you can define which subsections of the report you would like to exclude or include within your comparisons. Once you've done all of this, again, most of this is optional. You can select both the reports, which I've already done, and then get into results and run this particular test case. What's happening now in the background as we wait for this particular test case to run is that for both the reports, we're going to launch our browser. We're actually going to log in ourselves within the Tableau system. Once the report is loaded in, we're going to apply any filters or parameters that we wanted to apply. And after that, fetch the visual information in form of a PDF. There's also a lot more things we can fetch in terms of meta report elements like filters. And we're also keeping track of the loading times. So we make sure that we're keeping track of how many seconds it takes for each report and each aspect of the report to load in. And then we run comparisons against both of them. So here we see that this particular test case has failed, and let's see why exactly. Well, firstly, we see that we have sales per ship mode and sales per ship mode. This is the only textual difference between the corresponding reports, and nothing else actually comes out as difference as such. But then I switch over to appearance, and we see the application is calling out a few set of differences that the application has got. Firstly, the filter positioning of the test cases here is different. Ship mode has been shifted to the left side, and that's why standard class has been moved as well. So this positioning in the visual elements that has been altered is being captured. And apart from that, we also see that there are textual differences as well. So in this, sorry, not textual differences, data differences as well. And here you see that because of the guidelines being different and standard class being different, the application is calling out that there are minute data differences between the reports as well. And this is by design. I have created this test case specifically while ensuring that for sales per ship mode, there are differences present in the data. So that's why it's calling those out as well. Apart from textual and visual comparisons, the application also performs checks in terms of filters, and that is the exact filter that I would like to go ahead with. So for ship sales for ship mode, I had specifically added a postal code filter. And as you can see, this is completely absent in the dev system. And so the application is calling it out specifically. All the other filters are as expected, but there's an additional filter that's being called out. If there are mismatches, if say somebody goes in and instead of first class just types in first and ignores the class, or maybe changes the spelling or any other aspect of it, the application is going to call it out. If someone adds another value here, the application is going to call out that aspect as well. And apart from the visual comparisons and the meta report element comparisons, the application, as discussed, is doing performance comparisons between the two as well. It says that the production level report is taking about 5 seconds to load in, while the dev report is taking only 2 seconds to load in. And that is something that the application is calling out to the end user. And in case you want to look into it, this is a particular logs and other aspects are also stored in. What I've showcased to you is a simple example where we compare just one report. You can perform this exact same test case for 100 reports all at once. We come with a wizard as well, where you can just drag and drop the workspaces or reports you would like to run comparisons against, and the application will create all the comparison test cases as well as run them in coordinates or in parallel, depending on your use case. There's a lot of other integrations as well, like integration this particular test cases and the pipelines of data quality or BI quality with your existing pipelines, or CI/CD tool sets, or maybe DevOps systems as well, along with integrating the application with your servicing or incident creation or maybe ticketing services as well. A lot of integrations and other aspects that we won't discuss right now in the interest of time. But in a nutshell, this is upgrade testing within Tableau. Thank you for watching. If there are any other questions, or if you feel free to look into specific use cases, contact us at datagaps.com.